Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to the Alchemist and the Oracle, a space where we engage in spiritualized conversations that deepen understanding and inspire transformation and spark meaningful dialogue about life's most profound truths. I am Nicole of the Oracle, and as always, I'm joined by my amazing co-host, the Warrioress Ardeshir, also known as the Alchemist.
Howdy, everyone.
Welcome to the Alchemist and Oracle. Today, we're getting into conversation about the quiet collapse of old identities and why so many people feel lost right now. So with that, I'm going to open it up for the Warriors to share her take, and then I will share my take around this conversation today.
Thank you, my darling. I appreciate you. Hello, peeps out there. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being present in the conversation. We appreciate you very much. So this is something that is something I think very personal and something that I feel is going on, something that I currently experience and experiencing and just embracing kind of what this is and that some of us may feel this way in the moment. So I kind of want to open with, if you're feeling this way, it's not something to be confused about. It's just something that's going on that I identify as identity decomposition, which is letting go of the old and the collapse of these identities that no longer serve us anymore. And of course, I did some series on some of these identities, what happened to do with perfectionism and limiting beliefs that we are, like the ability of being strong when we already are strong, or holding that type of identity of always being that strong individual. I kind of like to kind of begin, which has to do with roles and labeling, all these ambitions and these coping personas that we deal with are slowly losing their coherence because they've already done their job. They're no longer needed for us anymore. And I'll go on and explain some perfect examples as I go down the line. And one of the examples I'll begin with has to do with, I don't know, maybe different, or what's my purpose right now, or I don't know who I am anymore. You may ask that question. I know after my mother passed here recently, am I moving back to my hometown because I have a whole time in another state. It was like, what was I here for now? I know a lot of mine had to do with being her and us having a good time, holding space for her, and things of that nature, because she was an outgoing woman. And as she aged, I got it good, still liked to have a good time. She was still a roller coaster rider in her 60s, 70s. So, I mean, hey, So it was like, what I do now, what is going on? Yes, I have a sibling, but they're grown, but the mother has that different tie, it's like, what used to matter doesn't land anymore. And I'd have to say that it doesn't. The shift is real, and sometimes we have to release that so we can kind of look at standing in that truth for now. And her leaving, even though she's very much present in spirit, because we're spiritual people having a human experience in body, period. you know so there's just this thing, because you may, not inspired, but you're not depressed. You might have that, because we use the word being depressed. Just sometimes we're having that shift. We don't really kind of, know what's going on in the moment. And that's okay. There's a matter that's breaking down so it can be recombined for you to come to that truth of who you are. So there's this quiet thing that's happening right now. It's not dramatic, it's not loud, it's not any of those things, but it's a lot of us that are kind of waking up and realizing that we don't recognize who we used to be, because we are not that. There's things that are shedding. I use the word shedding off from there. It's not subtle, it's not a crisis, it's not unhooked, and it's not a fear. It's just something that we're unfamiliar with. And I can tell you that it's very unfamiliar because I continue to go through this as the alchemist. I continue to transform as I continue to walk in the truth and become who it is that I'm to be in this moment, this chosenness that I have to do. And I just, want to talk about this from this perspective because what it looks like loss is just what I call a separating, a dismantle, a dying out process. And that's okay. It's a renewal. It's the beginning of a renewal. You know, identity is a structure. It's how you are becoming or to be going forward. Regardless of age, we see that we have these trends, just like a snake shedding, we're shedding skin, to be renewed in that moment. And we have seasons. I rather didn't really like because I didn't like change much because I'm not the seasons, the reasons for the seasons of being, I call that. When conditions change and structures break down. So we have these moments within and we have to be okay to sit with them because we seem to force who we need to be, who we do. We give ourselves these labels, the identity. I'm tired with the labels, except for those that I choose to identify with. You know, it's not seeing this as any type of mistake. It's a necessary, chemistry is a necessary chemical thing that we're becoming, this blackening that's going on, a matter of breaking down. It seems like we might feel a little disconnected in the moment, but we don't need to label it with any kind of mental anything, we don't need to try to fix it quickly, in that matter. And I didn't start it, so I don't know what that is. I hit the button, whatever.
37 minutes left.
We're good. Oh, thank you, darling. So y'all know. But to try to stay on point. So there's everything that's trying to break apart before the truth comes forth. And it's like this phase of disintegration that precedes the truth. So I call it where everything is breaking down and the truth is coming forth, the truth of who we are to truly become who we really are. Like in the other things we're talking about, who we were meant to be before the world told us something different, and so all of who you thought you were is starting to break apart because it's not needed to be the mask we wear, the things of that nature. So we're not in a state where you're in between. So if you're feeling that, even with the things that's going on in the world, you will notice yourself what you're not wanting to tolerate anymore. For example, had that conversation. So I have to use these different examples of this structure of the predicament, the good person identities, these always got to produce, and if you're not, then it's a failure. You got to be doing something. Sometimes that's not the key. To be the stronger one, the helper, the healer roles. We're doing all these things, and most of us know about that. And it's not that we don't care about people, but we have to be in alignment and in authority with ourselves first and foremost. That we don't have to play these roles. For me, I no longer have to be that strong person anymore. I always have. I was already strong. Grief is an example of allowing yourself to grieve instead of having to pretend not to, and I'll say this with our men, because you have tear duct, you have that, you don't have to do it in public, but you need to do it to shed what you believe that the world said you shouldn't do because I'm a man. Oh my God, done. We are supposed to be as a woman, who that means, it's you're feeling that because it's time to shed the falseness of what you thought it meant to be, that who you are. So, the soul is outgrowing these roles, has outgrown it, and we're walking in as we are. What collapse is not collapse because It cannot come with you on this next journey, this next stage of being. I understand that more. That battle, that fight to allow you to walk into this newness, you'll still be you, but so different, in that, to grow forward, to step into to the divine nature, to all you've ever desired to happen. So now there's this normalization in between. So I look at that, how you do that, and how you want to dismantle that, because it's that, the blackening, the things, the darkness, the things that you want to have that's dissolving, and what I call embracing the truth, the authentic truth of you, who you truly are, coming to be. They had this whole thing about reinventing yourself, or I was lost to find yourself. I said I was never lost. I'm discovering the real truth of who I become, to walk anew, to be in that part. To reinvent is to shed old, to become into the new, to release the mask, to release the other things that are happening in this world that we live in, and particularly within our own self, our own bodies. And we don't need to be attaching new labels or anything to us. We just need to kind of come in and just to be. So, for example, having your lived experience, what you're actually releasing, releasing a version of you that you thought you needed to be or needed to be certain. And I'll use myself as an example as being really futuristic in there, needing to be certain of how things are going to be or going to happen. And that takes so much energy away from us trying to and me and you've had this conversation, the certainty around that with me, and seeing that instead of like this here expression that is now coming to me about Martin Luther, about taking just a step. You don't have to stay that whole staircase as you walk into the uncertainty of your newness and your being, and letting go of the one who has it all together. Oh God, shit, that's exhausting as hell. So I'm just ooh, ooh. Yes, keep it real, keep it real, keep it real. So in mostly I have to say the women is that, because we try to do that through motherhood, through wifing, or however that may be for you, holding, households, or just even if you're not, just in your own energy, just pulling it when, it's saying, I don't have to do that no more. I don't have to do that. Loosening the identity around productivity, just like speaking with somebody, have to do that with the job, to do this, to grow this, to be this, or, the visibility or the spiritual authority, everything to have, no longer performing clarity before it's real. You're just in it, you're just in it. Ooh. Yes, this conversation is deep. So yeah. And I think that in the world that we live in, we have to understand that. And not only that, the world is actually shifting and renewing on its own. Know this well, force clarity, trying to perform, trying to do all these other things when we're looking at, shedding these identities that are no longer serving us, Also for me, it has looked like the letting of old identities fall away without, having to immediately replace. You just have to allow yourself to become. You don't have to always know what is next. That's how you can reserve some energy. Also letting silence exist during the process. Allowing where days where nothing is actually achieved. It doesn't mean you're not doing something. You're doing something for you, but not in the way in the world senses it. Okay. Letting, the old structures metabolize fully. Need to let that happen. Need to let that happen. So I'm not trying, the key is not trying to define who you're becoming in the moment, but allowing yourself to being the becoming. So I want you to sit with that for a minute. Yes, I can. So here is that we try to reinvent a little too fast. So you need to sit in the silence. There's no need to push. There's no need to grab new labels beyond yourself. And 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 spiritualizing the impatience. We don't need to do that either. We just need to be where we're just very good at allowing or surviving to identities, by not, grabbing another one. Titles, for example. We titles around everything, trying to be, you know, when we just need to be and we are. No need to stabilize so to the truth to get there, where you get to, a rebrand. Because the real transformation, organization resides in allowing things to be unstable. I look at chemistry for a moment and was trying to create something until somebody disturbed it. We won't get into that, but you have to allow it to be unstable for a little bit before it becomes and before it emerges, and allowing that self for yourself, you know. And also, yeah, that. Then allowing yourself to live without defining and in the definition, and checking in with your body. The Oracle go more into that. That's a fact for sure, instead of the narrative. So that's when you just kind of want to sit in and allow it. That's the whole thing. Is like cocooning and allowing, because you're feeling what you're feeling and you're becoming anew and you're trying to step into this new dimension, because that's exactly what happened, because the world is shifting as well. The world is renewing and shifting, and I use the word as being detoxified, toxified with the things that in your body you are tired of being toxified with these labels of, or trying to be or being anything. So renewing to stand in truth, authenticity, in the true nature of that. Making choices without over explaining them. There is no need. I was a big explainer. I don't need to do that no more. I was gonna say another word, but that I caught myself. So don't need to do that anymore.
Say it.
So, letting desires change without guilt. Guilt is huge. I have a note here around guilt, big. Guilt, that word, that's another word. Why we have to feel guilty about the mellow, because there was a time I said we need to slow down. There's a time where we slow down. People were enjoying life. People worked, did what they did, had the natures and had the comforts to enjoy even one another. And that's without even having to know one another. The old neighborhoods, the things of that nature. But you have that within yourself, and it's allowing the identity to feel fluid and flow day by day. That's your identity. You just need to allow yours to feel that fluidness as you move and shed, these identities, and especially the ones that are just illusions, like who you are. I'm this person, I'm that person, I got this, I got that. That's a no. That's a no. Mm-mm, 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 mm-mm. So fear of failure, all these different things, or I have to be this, this certain way to get through this here. No, you just need to be you. There's a quote, I'm trying to view this one, and I'll just use it because this is the quote, which has nothing to do with your background. Had to do with this in the moment, because what you would call say, I don't have to be anything. All I have to do is be black and die. All you have to be is you, and let that old shit die. Excuse the expression. And I do know the etymology of that word. So, it is it's the releasing. It's the releasing. It's the letting go, letting all the crap go. That's the only way to say it, right? And so some days you'll feel clear, some days it won't feel that way. but you're no longer trying to use or try to clarify this as a measure of your worth. You know, just learning to trust the coherence and the consistency. You're just trying to learn to allow yourself to flow, in that moment. That's just have to do it. We don't need to repair anything. We just need to let it, flow as we reintegrate into a kind of what we're becoming. So I'll kind of go on the slope of ending here on this here is no need to resolve here. You just need to sanctify into being who you are. Um, yeah, no confusion as intelligence. No need to identify fasting. And right now, you just need to allow the composing or the composition to happen instead of trying to fix you, because ain't nothing wrong with you. We're in this phase. You don't need to figure it out. Just need to stay in the present while what's false finishes dissolving. Yeah. So nobody is technically lost here. We're just in between the forms of becoming and letting go of the stuff that doesn't serve us. And there's something in us knows that the old shapes, all these things can't come with us into that next dimension of who we are becoming in the moment and who you are in the midst of it right now. This arranging, of yourself quietly within you. Is just take a pause and ask. Sometimes my uncle has to tell me to breathe. So I have to breathe. So you just have to pause. You need have to breathe. So I have some things to share at the end, some reflections. As you look into being okay and allowing these identities to go away, and to do it with compassion, with grace, trusting the process, and just allowing. And I'm gonna let my dear friend Oracle to step in this body, about the body. Shift in
Okay.
mind into body.
All right. So I really do feel that we have an identification problem. And I'll start with that. If you are new, have never watched or seen this, I've been doing these. I'm trying not to make noise.
What?
Or okay. All right, I've adjusted myself here. I've
Fine.
been doing these streams of consciousness and like leaning into the topic. And so the topic around the quiet collapse of old identities and why so many people feel lost right now, it led me into this revelation that there is a bigger conversation that we have to have right now. And that is how we are responsible for the current state of the world. And that is because there's like 3 levels, 3 points of entry here, like 3 categorizations, essentially. And the first one is that we have felt powerless. Some of us we feel powerless. And the second one is we have given our power away. And the third one is we have been exhausted exerting our power.
Yeah.
And so with these very 3 different modes of operation, there has been this working out of alignment with each other. And these modes have become an identity that is not who we truly are. And the ones who feel lost in the way forward, and why this is that some people are aware of the world and how it has been handled. And not just now, but from a time long ago. We have forgotten the history of things. History has been stolen, retold, and yet our soul remembers because our ancestors remember, and the world remembers. And they both know the power that we have to choose a new way because we are playing out history. And now we are being held up to remember in the ways that our ancestors and the earth holds these memories of times past. And in this remembering, our history can be very jarring. It can be brutal, and I feel very purposefully sobering. We live in a world that is not held in God's design. There's a misalignment in that. So I'm going to repeat that again. We are in a world that is being held not in God's design because the ways of the people contained in the world have chosen for this to be so. There's a lot in there. I'll just leave it there. That statement ties back to the previous episode of why we've been called into the dark. So, yes, there's so many people. You may feel lost because the what's being held up is not in alignment with God. So there's this identity that's being pushed that's not being held up in God. So why wouldn't you feel a sense of being lost, right? Because it's like, wait, that's off, right? It was a little off. So going further down my stream of consciousness, it's funny reading these back because I'm kind of like, does this make sense? But I'm just going to read it. So I leave the history as it is now because that's a lot to unpack, like the history, right? Because I think sometimes we can get overwhelmed with like the history of things and like how we got to be here. So for right now's sake, that's a lot to unpack. And for the purpose of this moment here now of remembering that you can find your way by remembering and knowing the power that you have, and this power holds the world up. So yes, you can feel lost because the way has been not remembered, lost in the ways of the world that are attempting you and tempting you by holding you up from your power through the distractions that disempower, that sadden, that dull you from your capacity to be in power. The truth is that this is an illusion, let's say a spell, that has attempted to be cast to blind you from the greatness that you have to offer to hold this world up in the power expressed of and through the essence of your soul. So yes, you feel lost because this world has made it so that you lose your way. And when you find it, the shock of the ways of the world can make you want to go into hiding. And through you hiding, the world will continue to attempt to hide its ways because it can, as long as you hide your light away. So yes, it can be experienced as being truly scary things in the dark because they have been allowed to play there with no illumination through the lost souls, wandering around, bumping around in the dark, where the whole time you have been right there with what's been playing in your face the entire time. So if you have felt powerless, get clear on what that is, and also get really clear on why that makes you feel powerless. That's your responsibility to understand the what and the why of it. And from this awareness, what is it that you want? What do you want? How can or what can you make, or what can make you feel your power come back online? And do more of that. If we start to play with our power, start to touch into it, lean into it, observe it, introduce ourselves to it, it starts to come back online. That's where focus your attention on. Focus your attention there, and you will build your power up because you're playing with your power. You learn to access it and become empowered with it. So if you have given your power away, get very clear on who you gave your power to and how they are using it. Are they using your power to empower you? Because if they are not, they care about using your power for themselves. So what it is that you have given your power to in hopes of receiving what it is that you feel they can do for you. So now is the time to go and find ways to do that for yourself and be with people who empower you to use your power. For those that are exhausted, exerting your power, that identification, I'm tired, I first want to say thank you to those of you for maintaining the power source. The question becomes, can you show others how to be with their own power for themselves? How can you bring some balance in this? Are you truly making the best aligned use of your power? So start here and then. And the question then becomes for us all. This is for all of us. What kind of world do we want to live in now that we know what is going on from a historical perspective, for which also provides the way forward as well? So that stream of consciousness was interesting, kind of reading it back and going back to the quiet collapse of old identities and why so many people feel lost right now is so many people feel powerless. And so why do you feel powerless? If you find yourself feeling overwhelmed with everything that's going away, how are you giving your power away? Through the distractions and the seeking of becoming empowered, being inspired by other people. How can you be inspired by other people to inspire you? Because when we're constantly seeking that connection around getting clear on who we feel we are, that identity of ourselves, we seek it outside of ourselves. People are constantly going to be telling you who you need to be. Whereas what I've come to realize is that it's flipped. We have this identification problem because no one should be telling you who you are. You need to know who you are so you can discern, oh, okay, this person inspires me to take inspired action because I know who I am. This is my purpose to speak or whatever it is, speak, paint, teach. You dictate who comes into your field because you become empowered by who you know you are. And you start to realize the need to identify your sexual orientation, to identify your race, to identify where you live, to identify the type of hair you have, the color of your skin, whether you're like cool tone or warm tone, like it doesn't matter, because those things don't really matter if you're just being you. If you're just being you, you don't need to explain, oh, yeah, this is what my beingness is. I'm Black. I have curly hair. I love the color red because I am a neutral skin tones, undertones here. I'm from the South. It doesn't matter. But we make it matter because when we start to lean into this need to identify, we move further and further away from our true self and our true identity, our capacity to be empowered, to connect to our power in a way that will always be in alignment with ourselves. So there's quiet collapse of old identities, and why people are feeling lost is I feel that a lot of people are lost because these identities never felt aligned to begin with. And the world is changing and shifting and really questioning the identifications. I think there's identities that are shifting. We're in kind of like this chaos set point right now where things aren't really settled. Things are kind of like all over the place. And I think we're in this cycle because we have lost the history of who we are in the connection of the essence of ourselves, that substance, our higher God self, our divine expression and connection. And it's collapsing because it's not real. It's not the true nature of who we are. Yeah. And so this identification problem that I feel that we have so much as a culture, as a people, is always going to make us feel lost. And if you can lean into what the Warrioress was saying about being with yourself and finding the space and the capacity to be with yourself more and more, and you build that capacity, and you start to lessen the need to identify and lessen the need to explain the identification, to lessen the need to justify the choices that you make because you know who you are and what feels good for you. I think that's the key. How can we be with who we are that doesn't seek this need to tell other people who we are? Because I always remember my mom telling me when I was little, like, people tell you who they want you to think they are, but you find out who they are by just observing. And going back to what Iyanla Vanzant says, when people tell who they are, you believe them.
Yeah.
So this old identity is falling away because it's no longer in alignment because it never has been. And I feel that we're in this phase and this stage and in this cycle of humanity that the world is moving into a new energetic state. And at this time frame, because it can seem chaos, and I think all of it is a distraction to really kind of mess up people's nervous systems and things like that, and it's noise. This is the perfect time to practice being with yourself in spite of the chaos. If you can find that sweet spot of seeing the chaos and being sad about the things that you have seen, or maybe those of you that have been holding the space of like, I've already known all of this, like you guys are just caught up to where I've known and my ancestors have told me and they have known and like I've remembered and that's why I say thank you to those people that have maintained that power source, that history and that telling and their capacity to be with it and be with themselves. We need the demonstration. And that's why we've been called to do this channel in this way, is to support people in feeling safe and just remembering who they really truly are and whose they really come from.
Yeah.
That's the identity. That's the only identification that we will ever need. And anything outside of that, in my opinion, will lead you to feel lost. So feeling lost is a pattern because I'm all about pattern recognitions here. How can you use that awareness? I feel lost. Why do you feel lost? How do you feel lost? Where do you think you're trying to get to? Those are my things that I would say to kind of help reflect on. And I'll leave it at that and allow the Warrioress to provide her reflections of support.
Thank you, my dear. That was very well stated.
I'm glad that it was. Thanks for the feedback. I never know how it's going to go when I talk, when I speak.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep it short and sweet. I just will like reiterate something for you is that if you're feeling the feel like she said illusion right now or that lack of the sake of that, you're not off path, you know. I want to say you're in between forms. And something in you knows that the old shape cannot go forward, but something truer is preparing to. And yeah, that. So I have something for you to reflect on. Is to reflect on who to say or journal on if you shall choose. Who am I when I stop rehearsing who I used to be?
Mm. Mm. Who am I when I stop rehearsing
Who I used to be.
who I used to be?
Girl.
That's a deep one right there. I feel like I need to go and journal on that one
Yeah, I
myself.
will. I'm gonna journal on that yet too. Yeah.
Wow.
Because that's real. That is real.
Mm.
Yeah. Said, who am I when I stop rehearsing who I used to be? And just on another note, that quote that I was talking about, it says, all I need to do is be black and die, comes from the movie Lean on Me, towards the latter part of that movie. I think he was in jail, had put in there for, because he cared about the kids. Let's see if it didn't care about the kids. So yeah, just insane.
The movie's crazy. That
I love that movie. I watched it a lot.
hey,
Like
remember the history, guys. Remember the history.
remember the history, yeah.
Mm.
All right. Reflection. Who am I when I stop rehearsing who I used to be? As you let go of that old identity, baby, or identities, because some of us walk around, as I said, with more than one.
Yeah. Ooh, that's a good one. That's a really good one. Wow. Okay. Well, thanks for being in conversation with me about this this topic.
Always.
I
It's my pleasure.
I feel like we're good. We don't need to go any further, especially with that reflective question.
Yeah.
Um, I do want to say this. My spirit is speaking to me to say this, that if you're overwhelmed in any capacity, the reminder is find find people who get it. Find your community. You don't have to do this by yourself. I think so many people think, oh, I need to do it on my own. Yes, you have to actually be the one to do the work. You have to save yourself. But find people that that'll bring you some soup while you're like breaking apart things and old identities and things of that nature. Find people that will nurture you. Find people that will help you. Don't have to do it alone as you learn how to expand your capacity to be with yourself.
Yeah.
So I think loneliness is the challenge that a lot of people have around identity and why they seek identities that are not in alignment. So find your people. Don't have to do it on your own, is the reminder that came through. So again, thanks for being in conversation with me, Warrioress Ardeshir RN. For those of you, yes, deep bow. Those of you that are watching on the YouTube channel, be sure to subscribe and to share this video and comment down below. Do whatever you feel you need to do, okay? I'm just providing suggestions. Do what you want to do for yourself. I'm not ever going to tell you to do something that you're like, yeah, no. But we appreciate you for watching. We appreciate those of you listening on the podcast. And we hope to see you or you hear us on the next episode. So,
or hear from you.
Yeah. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And hope to see you soon. Bye.
Love y'all. Peace.